to speak to you. I invite the minority leader, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, together with the minority chief whip and deputy minority leader. Thank you.
I need my phone. This is perfect. Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, even as we subject the party to a competitive democratic process, I still believe irrebutably that he remains a presumptive nominee to lead the party into the 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections. The national chairman of our party, national chair of our Council of Elders, the general secretary, very respected members of our Council of Elders, very distinguished delegates of the National Democratic Congress. How gratifying it is this afternoon to address you on behalf of the NDC Parliamentary Minority Group, the gallant 137 members of Parliament who are doing their utmost best to position the NDC as a credible, worthy alternative government. I bring to you warm felicitations from the entire caucus, which is united to work around the leadership of our party to save this country, to save our economy from President Nana Addo Dankwa's misrule and misgovernance. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in every civilized democracy, there is what we call the essential ingredients of the democratic process. One of it is that there is freedom of expression, freedom of speech, built on the foundations of what is referred to as, again, is an independent media that regulates and reports the affairs of state. Ladies and gentlemen, as I address you, we should be mindful that the decisions we take as a party, in particular the election of our national officers, have implications for our party's future. We will be committing the most unpardonable political sin if we fail to unseat the new patriotic party come December 2024 to end the misery that they have subjected us to. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to limit myself to attempts by the new patriotic party government in cohort with the Electoral Commission of Ghana to deny Ghanaian citizens legitimate guaranteed constitutional right under Article 42 of our Constitution, which guarantees the right of every citizen of 18 years and above to be on the electoral roll and to be registered as a voter. Is it not significant that since the inception of multi-party has failed to operationalize Article 42 of the 1992 Constitution by way of periodic annual voters registers exercise? Since 2020, Ghanaians who have attained the age of 18 into 2021, 2022, and probably even to the early years of 2023 have not been given the opportunity to be registered as voters. We simply in the NDC cannot understand this, and we have a duty to defend the constitutional ideals, and in particular Article 42 of our Constitution. Is it also not instructive that there masquerading to deny us of a deserved victory in the 2024 elections when we are told that they want to use the Ghana card as basis for electoral register. First of all, we know that the Electoral Commission of Ghana under Article 45, 46, 47 of the Constitution is not subject to the direction of any person, control, or organization, but at least the National Identification Authority is not such independent. The current voter register has a population of 17 million Ghanaian people. The total registered persons under the National Identification Authority is 16.7 million. Let someone reconcile this for me when you say you want to use the national ID card for basis of an electoral register where there is discrepancy between what is on your electoral roll as registered by the Electoral Commission of Ghana, distinct and different from what is on the national ID card roll. Significant for me to add that, for instance, in Ashanti region, out of 3.5 million, only 3.2 cards have been issued, representing 91.4%. In the Ahafo region, out of 675,198 cards issued, 271, representing 40.2%. In the Northern region, out of 1.3 million, only 840,000 cards have been issued, representing 64.46%. In the Central region, you have 1.8 million against 1. Now increase 120 billion Ghana cedis. January 2017, it was reported by President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo as colossal. Today, our public debt is in the region of over 450 billion Ghana cedis. That has occasioned what he denied when he said there will be no haircut, and we are now hearing a debt exchange program. So to the new patron at 50%, cost of living is still high, cost of goods and services is still high, you are not able to determine even public sector wages, and now the minimum wage is 14.8 cedis, and a loaf of bread is 25 Ghana cedis. This can only happen under the non-performing party. What the NDC needs to do is to work together. We expect delegates to conduct themselves well and elect national officers that will partner our flag bearer, who eventually may be elected in March, to cruise the party to victory. The youth and women wing of our party remains the wing of that Falcon aircraft that will fly the party to victory. I therefore urge our youth and women's wing to demonstrate discipline, mutual respect for each other, and fly the party to victory with the national executives to be elected today. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I need not take credit to say that at least we increase, together working with all of you and the national executives of our party, we increase the number of elected MPs of going into the future. My major concern and worry, and Congress must begin finding answers to it, the NDC must begin finding answers to it. What kind of economy is John Dramani Mahama likely to inherit in 2025? What kind of governance are we to provide? The Ghanaian people expect nothing but meaningful governance that respects their security and safety, and governance that shares the opportunities of our country. But at least we are certain that Excellency John Dramani Mahama will not run a nepotistic government. We are now being told that President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, his war against corruption is in tatters. Even the special prosecutor he appointed has not been paid for 16 months. And he himself have gone on to do appointments that offense Section 21 of the Special Prosecutor Act and Article 195 of the Constitution. Charity, they say, begins at home. We expect all of them to demonstrate fidelity to the law and fidelity to the Constitution of Ghana. Let me, on behalf of the NDC caucus and on my own personal behalf, wish the 10th National Delegates Congress every success and wish you all travel messages back. God bless us all and thank you all.
Thank you very much, Minority Leader, the Honorable Thank you very much. Haruna Idrisu is the Minority Leader. He came here with his leaders and he leads the gallant 137 members of Parliament. Now moving on to the Council of Elders. Let's welcome the Chairman of our Council of Elders, Alhaji Mahama Idrisu.
NDC. Respond. NDC. NDC.
Choboy. 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 NDC. NDC. NDC.
The chairman of this 10th Ordinary Delegates Congress of our dear party, the National Democratic Congress, the former president and flag bearer of the 2020 general election, the running mate for the 2020 general elections, members of the diplomatic corps, delegates of this Congress, representatives of fraternal parties, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to welcome all to this August assembly of the party to take stock and take very important decisions for the party for the next 4 years of the life of the party. The last 4 years have been very challenging, but the party has managed to pull through. The positive lessons learned from those challenges should be brought to bear on the decisions that we as delegates shall take at this Congress. At this Congress, we should elect people based on the ideals and values of the party. We should choose people who will strive for unity of the party and people who will sacrifice for the party. Let's choose people who will respect the constitution of the party and people who will believe in probity and accountability. Above all, who we choose should put the party above their individual interests. Let us put aside any controversies that are likely to degenerate into unnecessary conflicts, so at the end of this Congress, the party will come out stronger and more united to assume reins of government come 2024. NDC, unity, stability, and development. I wish you all a successful Congress. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alhaji Mahama Idrisu, the chairman of Council of Elders of the Great National Democratic Congress. Your speech was straight and direct and is matching us to prepare for power. As we continue with the program, the administrative history of NDC Choboy. So I was informing you the administrative history of NDC has been compiled and is in a huge book form. For the 20 years of 1992 to 2012, anything and everything about the party is in there. It was selling at 1,000 Ghana cedi per copy, but courtesy this Congress is been reduced to 700 Ghana cedi per copy, so that as many of you as possible will return home with a copy, so you can have the history of this party in handy. You will know that in 1992, we were in Cape Coast to have our first Delegates Congress. In 1994, we were in Kumasi in the Ashanti region for the second. In 1996, we went to Sunyani in the then Brongahafo region for the third. In 1998, we were in Sekandi, Takrade for the 4th, we continued to Volta Region for a special conference that was not an ordinary delegate congress. In 2002, we met at the trade fair in Greater Accra. Then in 2005, we were at Eridek Hotel in the Eastern region. In 2010, we went to Tamale in the then Northern region. Then in 2014, we went back to Kumasi in the Ashanti region to have another Congress. 2018 brought us to Trade Fair Fantasy Dome in Accra. And then this time around, we have assembled again in Greater Accra to have our Congress at the Accra Sports Stadium. At this point, at this moment, we have reached the peak of the speeches. I have the honor of inviting I'm told a little amendment to our program, and that a group that has done so well has applied for affiliation. The affiliation has gone through the various stages. It's left with the final stage that this Congress will have to adopt. We have the Director of Legal in the person of Lawyer Abraham Amaliba to lead that process of having this group properly accepted by the party. I invite Lawyer Amaliba, Director Legal of the National Democratic Congress, to do us that honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Kofi. I move the motion for the adoption of the resolution for the affiliation of Professional Forum of the NDC, otherwise called Pro Forum. The National Executive Committee, NEC, having received an application for affiliation by NDC Professionals Forum, and having on the 19th of September 2022 issued a provisional affiliation approval, do hereby recommend by resolution for the consideration that Pro Forum be fully affiliated to the NDC on the following terms. 1. Pro Forum shall pay annual subscription fee to be determined by NEC. And 2. Pro Forum shall be entitled to select and present 10 of its members as delegates to the National Delegates Congress. This will be seconded.
Mr. Chairman of the Steering Committee of Congress, I stand here to second the motion ably moved by Comrade Abraham Amaliba, and in doing so, I wish to make a few comments about Pro Forum. Indeed, the Pro Forum is a body which was established after the 2016 general elections, and part of the outcome of the Dr. or Professor Kwesi Boatwell report, we recommended that the NDC needed certain professional bodies to support it. As a result of which, the Pro Forum started preparing itself as a body which will be affiliated to the NDC. Even before the formal affiliation, the Pro Forum has proved itself very, very useful to the NDC by supporting the NDC in various ways. Indeed, the philosophy of the Pro Forum, its aims and objectives are very similar and acceptable to the NDC. And so we have no problem in accepting the affiliation of Pro-Forum. The NDC has no difficulty in accepting the affiliation of the Pro-Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, I therefore wish to recommend your endorsement of this particular motion. On the basis of that, I second this motion. Thank you very much.
The question the motion to accept Pro-Forum as an affiliated body has been moved and has been seconded. Now I'll put the question. As many people as want Pro-Forum to be included in our program, affiliated to us, say aye. Aye. As many as don't want Pro-Forum to be affiliated, say no. Ladies and gentlemen, the ayes have it. So Pro-Forum is now an affiliated group to the NDC. Thank you very much.
So I'll call on the leadership of Pro-Forum to approach the dais. I also want to invite Alhaji Muhammad Idrisu, the chairperson of the Council of Elders, to approach the dais and present to Pro-Forum the certificate of affiliation. So we have Alhaji Muhammad Idrisu here. Alhaji Muhammad Idrisu will do us the honors. Will do us the honors by presenting to the leadership of Pro-Forum a certificate of affiliation. Yes, thank you, Alhaji. Thank you. So that's the certificate. We all see it. Pro-Forum is now an affiliate of the NDC. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Abraham Amaliba, for performing this very important function. So henceforth, Pro-Forum has become part and parcel of the NDC, right from the very top to the bottom base of the party. Please listen to this announcement. All those persons occupying the red seats are asked by the security to come down and take the yellow seats. You are not to sit up there. You are considered a security risk to those sitting down. You are therefore to move down. If you are up, please start moving and get to the yellow seats. Nobody is expected to sit on the red seats here, especially those to my left, those directly in front of me, and any behind me. You are not supposed to occupy any of the red seats, apart from those that we have at the VIP stand. The rest of the red seats are not to be occupied. I also take this opportunity to acknowledge the presence of Canada chapter that is represented at this 10th Delegate Congress of NDC. Canada, you are welcome. Thank you so much. I recognize the presence of a number of diplomats, but we recognize your presence and we thank you so much for coming and having confidence in us. I therefore now continue to invite the address to Congress, the address that will open the way for us to move into the next phase of Congress. That will lead the party to victory in 2020. members of this great party to invite our great leader, some of you, your great dad and son, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. With a round of applause, let's welcome him. Let's make the noise as we enjoy the music. Let's make the noise. Let's make the noise. Let's make the noise. As we welcome him, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Thank you. Ezu. Hey. Thank you very much, all of you. Chairman of the Council of Elders of our great party, members of the Council of Elders, National Executive Committee members, our running mate for the 2020 election, leader of the NDC group in Parliament, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, and your members of Parliament, our national chairman, our general secretary, fellow colleagues from sister parties, members of the NDC diaspora who have paid airfares to be here with us. I appreciate you, and delegates. I wish to warmly welcome all of you to this 10th Congress of the National Democratic Congress. Let me begin by expressing my appreciation to our sister parties for the fraternal messages that they brought. I think the messages were well thought through, and I consider them to be the keynote addresses of this Congress. Thank you very much, members of our sister parties. I start this speech with one quotation from the Bible, and that's Romans 8:31. And it says, if God be for us, who can be against us? And then another quote from a very famous hymn, Begone Unbelief, and that is the end of the first stanza, which says, with Christ in the vessel, I smile at the storm. Delegates, ladies and gentlemen, all too soon, 4 years have elapsed since we last gathered to elect leaders to various national executive positions of the party. With that mandate having expired, and as required by our Constitution, we have gathered here once again at the Accra Sports Stadium to elect another crop of leaders into office to manage the affairs of this party for the next 4 years. Today's election represents the final piece that will complete the party's management and administrative structure, and it comes after an elaborate and comprehensive restructuring and reorganization exercise spanning the last 2 years. In that period, we have democratically elected over 300,000 branch executives, over 7,000 constituency executives, and 300 regional executives. Exactly a week ago today, the National Youth and Women's elections were held successfully in Cape Coast, and I wish to use this opportunity
to congratulate all who took part in that exercise. To those who won the elections, I say well done. And to those who could not realize their objectives of occupying national executive positions, I congratulate you nonetheless, for it takes real courage to step up to the plate and offer yourself for leadership in any organization. You live to fight another day. I note that in the period preceding those elections and its immediate aftermath, a series of regrettable exchanges ensued which threatened to detract from the larger objective of consolidating our front and preparing for the greater task of wresting the leadership of this country from this bungling and inept NPP government. I have, in conjunction with various elders of the party, moved to resolve the differences that gave rise to these exchanges, and I'm gratified to see that calm and normalcy has gradually returned to the youth front of our party. I'll reiterate the counsel I gave to those involved in these exchanges that victory or defeat in internal contests should not provide the basis for feuds, as they serve no purpose than advancing the interests of our opponents. The NDC possesses adequate organizational capacity and acumen to resolve internal disputes. Hence, it should be possible to iron out our differences of any sort emanating from any form of contest without waging a war of attrition against each other. I've observed, though to a much lower extent, similar sharp rhetoric and exchanges in some of the contestations leading up to today's election. And I want to urge an appeal for restraint and demonstration of maturity, which we have exhibited many times over, even as we go through today's important exercise. I expect that the period during and after these elections would be peaceful and cordial, and that we can immediately set about the task of preparing the party and proper governance for this country. This party brims with the democratic spirit, and we have withstood many intense and highly competitive elections, and we have emerged unscathed. Perhaps the most memorable of these elections, internal elections, was the 2011 presidential primaries, which was famously dubbed the Fonka Games. While speaking at that primary in Sunjani, at the time I was the Vice President of the Republic, I had chosen to tell our teaming party supporters a legendary folk tale of the three birds, Tika, Taka, and Gangale, who through cooperation and unity gained prominence and fame in their community through their harmonious rendition of melodious tunes. With their three different voices rising in unison, they wowed their audiences with their superlative performances. No sooner had they achieved fame than arrogance, pride, and envy caused them to go their separate ways. Now their combined voices, which once rose in those melodious tunes, gave way to solitary, jangling, and discordant sounds, which drew them scorn and opprobrium from the same crowd that had doted on them previously. They soon fell from their lofty perch as the most admired group in their community. The gravamen of that tale, I told over a decade ago, is that in unity lies strength. And this still rings eternal, and it appropriately captures the danger of allowing ourselves to be torn apart by avoidable conflict and disunity. Individual aspirations and interests must be subsumed under the larger interest of the NDC and our dear country Ghana, which is in dire need of rescue from the hopelessness and the dark abyss that we have been thrown into by this government. What is taking place today is not just an election to determine who occupies what position in the top echelons of the NDC. What we're doing here today would amount to a declaration of intent by us to lead the broad masses of Ghanaians in one big push to dislodge this government, which has been abject and dismal in the governance of this country at the next polls in 2024. This is an absolute national imperative, and we cannot fail at it. At this point, allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to appreciate the hundreds of thousands of friends, supporters, and members who responded to my call to support our fundraising for this 10th National Delegates Congress. Even though our call for support came rather late, I'm happy to announce to you that through small mobile money payments of 10 Ghana cedis each, donations and deposits into our National Congress account, we received a total of 1,083,000 cedis in 12 days. This is a demonstration of the love Ghanaians generally and members of the NDC have for our party and the worthy cause we are embarked on. I also wish to express my appreciation through this medium to other donors who wish to remain anonymous, but who helped us to make up the shortfall in our budget for this Congress. We also received material donations, including bags, thousands of bags of water, rice, event logistics, and other non-monetary gifts to support the Congress. To all such donors, I stand on behalf of the party and say to you, Ayiko, thank you. I want to use this opportunity to demonstrate to all that there's a fundamental responsibility on our part, especially as executives and party supporters, to help finance the party. We cannot leave party financing on the shoulders of just a few people. To buttress this point, I wish to pay tribute and salute our chairman of Trifu Ati Mokwa constituency in the Central Region, Mr. Hakim Adai, who I noticed while going through the list of people who donated to this Congress. Mr. Hakim Adai, chairman of Atimokwa Central Region, made a cash donation of 10,000 Ghana cedis through his local GCB branch to our Congress account. Mr. Hakim Adai, I salute you. Thank you very much. And I wish to personally meet you, to shake hands with you after this opening ceremony. So look out for me. Ladies and gentlemen, the good people of Ghana have suffered 6 years of appalling misrule, corruption, waste, arrogance, nepotism, and abuse of office, human rights violations, and economic mismanagement never before seen in our history. Pain and anguish have swept through the land and left in their wake a people buffeted on all fronts who need all the inspiration and hope we can muster. 6 years of reckless and irresponsible mismanagement of the economy has rendered our people broken and struggling to survive from one day to the next. The Akufo-Addo and Bawumia government have supervised the worst economic conditions in several decades and brought upon us hardship that an entire generation of our population has never witnessed before in all our existence. The life savings of Ghanaians, their business capital, their pensions, and the very survival of our commercial banks and insurance companies are threatened by the first debt restructuring ever undertaken by our country. And this is because of the reckless borrowing of the finance minister and the economic management team led by His Excellency the Vice President. 0% in 2023, a measly 5% and 10% interest will be paid in 2024 and 2025, respectively, with minimal installments of principals due for payment to be made over a 5 to 15-year period. Meanwhile, several individuals and pensioners cannot guarantee that they will be alive by 2037 to see the final 41% maturity of their principal. Our dear country Ghana, that has been a poster boy of democracy, good governance, and economic progress, stands on the brink of bankruptcy and economic ruin. Yet, we have a president who enjoys spouting the rhetoric of self-respect and restraint from begging Western nations for support. And yet he has spent the last several weeks on the telephone with Western leaders, asking them to beg the IMF to grant Ghana the recently announced staff-level agreement for an extended credit facility. Today. And yet, this is the same person who only yesterday said, Ghana, yet isikaso, ekom die. This NPP government has done the worst to erode the belief of Ghanaians in our democracy. Many Ghanaians see their situation as hopeless and are willing to take the hazards of dying in the Mediterranean Sea or electrocution on a high-tension transmission line in Kaswa. But countrymen and women, let us not despair. They say the darkest hour is before the dawn. And they also say, in every adversity, we find opportunity. And Bob Marley also says, when one door is closed, another is open. Ghana shall rise to a new dawn. Part of the process of turning the fortunes of our dear nation around are what is taking place today at this Congress. Ghanaians are looking up to us not to become the next government by default as a result of the failure of this administration. Ghanaians are looking up to us to be the choice because we're a better alternative. We must not win by default of the lapses of this administration, but we must win because we are the better alternative to govern this country. And I've heard many people say that when we win power, we must do exactly as the MPP are doing. But I dare say, there's no use fighting for political power if we're going to commit the same mistakes and abuses the MPP has inflicted on Ghanaians. The NDC must be the government of infrastructure. The NDC must be the government that protects human rights. The NDC must be the government of economic prosperity and growth. The NDC must be the government of modesty and humility. The NDC must be the government that fights corruption and dissipation of public funds. The NDC must be the government of prudence and accountability. Our work is therefore cut out for us in the days, weeks, and months immediately following this National Congress. And therefore, we can ill afford to spend any time on unhelpful internal bickering. Let us get off our marks immediately and convince Ghanaians that in addition to our superior record in governing to that of the MPP, that we are ready to be the alternative government come 2025. The first step towards doing that is by proving that we can manage our own internal affairs and hold ourselves to an acceptable standard of behavior. And that is why I wish to reiterate my call on all of us here to be mindful of our actions and play our roles at this Congress peacefully so that we may leave here a more united and stronger force capable of leading the efforts to save Ghana from certain collapse under this MPP administration. I wish also at this juncture to repeat my position of neutrality in the various contests. Let me say again that I do not have any preferred candidate for any position. And I urge all delegates to vote based on your own appreciation of the messages of aspirants and their conviction about their capacity to work in the larger interest of the party. I stand ready to work with all those you elect to lead our great party and to contribute my quota to our objectives, which primarily revolve around saving this country and building the Ghana we want. We've gone through and passed this test many times, and I trust that we'll pass it again with flying colors this time too. Let me finally wish all aspirants the very best of luck as you go into this contest. All of you are winners in your own rights, and the courage you have demonstrated by offering yourselves in service to NDC and by extension Ghana is worth commending. As with the very nature of contest, there will be winners and there will be those who are unsuccessful in their attempt. I urge the winners to be gracious and conciliatory, and I also encourage those who do not make it to take it in their stride and remember that there's more than enough room for everyone to contribute towards the success of the NDC. Whether or not you hold elected office in the NDC, there will always be a role for you to play in the scheme of things. And finally, before I take my seat, I wish to thank the Electoral Commission for coming to supervise this election in this Congress. I wish to thank the Ghana Police Service for providing security for this Congress. And I wish to thank the media who are giving us live coverage for all that you're doing for us. May God bless you, and I wish everyone a successful Congress. Thank you very much. But now, before we finish this session, when we go on break, we're coming back for the elections. But before we go, I wish to mention the name of some of our fallen comrades, after which we shall observe a 1-minute silence for them. And the first on the list is His Excellency J. John Rawlings, the founding father of the NDC. The late John Evans Atamils, former President of the Republic of Ghana. His Excellency Kwesi Emisa Atta, my Vice President. Captain Kojo Chikata, Justice D.F. Annan, Mr. P.V. Obeng, Mr. Nathan Kwao, Professor Kofi Awono, our former Chairman, Dr. Kwabena J., our former Chairman, A.A. Munufie, and Alhaji Isifu Ali, Mr. J.H. Ousoi Champong, former Majority Leader, Mr. Farouk Brahma, Alhaji Kojo Mama Adams, Mr. Fred Ohenekina, Ambassador D.S. Boateng, Dr. Mary Grant, Dr. Atukwashi, Victor Salome, Dr. Kaiko, Albert Bosomche Sam, Ama Beniwado, Difa Ativo, Samuel Nyama Donko, Jijote, Haji Ajibodi, Lionel Mobila, Oscar Meyedowo, Harry Sawyer, Charlie P., Alhaji Mobila, former Northern Regional Chairman. And only yesterday, I hear we lost A.U. Farouk of Tamale, a very outspoken supporter of the NDC. And of course, we also remember in cold blood during the last elections of the year 2020. May God grant all of them, and the many others that I have forgotten to mention, may God grant them peaceful repose And at this juncture, I ask all of you to rise wherever you are. Rise wherever you are. It also includes Professor Kosibotre, who we lost only recently, Professor Kosibotre. And so I ask you to rise wherever you are, and let's observe a minute's silence for them. Please, no vuvuzelas. Please silence, 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 silence. May the souls of the faithfully departed rest in peace. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for such a deep message delivered. Is to charge us and march us onto victory. Chobai! Chobai! We are Mizu! We are Miza! We are Mizuza! We are Mizazu. At this point, I invite my co-MC, Honorable Obobia Dako, to come and acknowledge some media houses. Thank you.
We are grateful to the media for joining us for today's event. As we come to the end of the very first part of today's event, we would like to acknowledge the presence of multimedia. Thank you very much. Despite media, Class Media, City FM and City TV, Radio Gold, Ahoto FM, Power FM, Kofi TV, Sumpa Media, Atinka Media, Angel Media, and all radio stations across the country. Forgive us if your name hasn't been mentioned, but we acknowledge your presence and we really appreciate whatever it is that you have put out today. We also like to show appreciation to Silicon House Productions. Thank you very much. TV XYZ. And to the Wezo TV group, you guys are fantastic. What would we have done without you? We are live across the country and live around the world. Thank you very much, Wezo TV and the Event PR Company. On this note, Honorable Kofi Adams, we sign off for the first part as we take a short break.
Thank you so much. We are signing off. We are taking a break for 45 minutes. When we return, it is voting time, and we are not going to wait for you. If you are not here, we will start voting, and you know about that. If you don't come, your vote will not count. We want everybody's vote to count. So 4:20 p.m. we are back here to commence voting. Mobile phones will not be allowed in the voting area. You will not enter the booth with your phone. If you dare, your phone will be seized. And when it is seized, you may not have it back. So don't enter the voting arena with your phone when we return. Find somewhere for your phone. Thank you very much, and God bless us. Part 1 is over. Thank you.
And this is your Election Command Center here on Media General across our platforms. Well, we're streaming on the internet, TV3 Ghana, and my colleague Crosby Noble Annan is joining me in studio here. First part impressive, would you say?
Yes, so far so good. I think it's been excellent so far. I went according to the books. nothing out of the ordinary. It has been as expected, especially looking at how, the two main persons in the for the chairmanship race, Asiodun Ketia and Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, conducted themselves in their speeches that they delivered. I think there was a core message that there was the need for peace.
That's right.
Such that the party should not crumble after today's event, that they're looking forward into 2024. So far, so good for them.
It looks like a message that has run through all their speeches. Exactly. John Mahama's speech culminating, wrapping it up beautifully. Of course, the message of peace and unity, common sense and maturity have taken center stage. But then again, you would recognize that Chairman Ofosu-Ampofo, for example, had a snake and, a snake and a mosquito analogy. And many others were hoping that General Asiodun Ketia, the man that he is, full of wits, would also have responded. He passed the buck. He didn't respond to that comment.
Well, I think he responded, but in a more subtle way.
How did he do that?
Especially when he asked for forgiveness. So remember that when he finished reading his speech, he decided to ask for forgiveness from the delegates, that those he has offended, he's asking them to forgive him. And Asiodun Ketia is full of tact.
That's right.
He's very strategic. Maybe he may not toe the line of Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo to go, if you like, a little bit too direct, but wanting to use a certain way to still warm himself into the heart of the delegates. So I think his desire to say that he's sorry for the wrongs that he has committed against the delegates, maybe, or the party itself. Remember the audio that was leaked? And, a lot of people...
Well, he insists it's not a leaked audio because he was actually addressing party faithful to tell them what and you would also ask the question whether or not he planned it up until this time, reserved it. Why? I mean, they went to court in 2021. Right?
Yes.
He waited until now to be telling everybody else that, look, we didn't have A, B, C, and D, which is why, we couldn't get the case through. Why did he have to wait up until this time? So he has insisted that it was not a leaked tape, because a leaked tape then will be something that is not public and somebody else is trying to make it public. But this was a campaign platform where he was speaking to people.
So he was very well aware of the things he was saying.
Exactly.
He knew that, the general public could get hold of that. And after that, people have been pointing accusing fingers at him. People have raised their voice at him. So I think that was why he needed to apologize to some delegates. And some, maybe it would seem so unimportant for him to apologize, but some delegates would take the apology very at heart, that he realized that he has offended the party and then he had to do it. That he's full of, strategies. Remember, he came immediately after John Dramani Mahama when the euphoria, when Mahama entered, was very high. He decided to come immediately after that so that some may rub off him. And when he came after John Dramani Mahama, you realize that the excitement did not go down. So, I mean, it was maybe carefully rehearsed, according to Professor Duque.
These are the two gentlemen that, if you will, are in the four round for, it looks like a two-horse race for the chairmanship. Chairman Ofosu-Ampofo in general, Mosquito Asiodun Ketia. But there's also Nyama Ashite and then Edusei, who are in the race. It appears people are not focusing on the two, Edusei and Nyama Ashite. People are just focusing on Asiodun Ketia and Ofosu-Ampofo, obviously because of the positions that they presently hold and what roles they have played and how the campaigns have panned out indeed. And these are the gentlemen, one of them, hopefully by close of today, maybe by tomorrow, will get to lead the National Democratic Congress as its chairperson going into the 2024 elections. And if you listen to the tone of John Mahama Crosby, he seems to suggest that we're in a very difficult place, we're in a bad place. Right. The people of Ghana have no hope, and they are looking forward to the NDC to rescue them. So then there shouldn't be unnecessary bickering and acrimonious relationship and circumstances. Everybody should unite and then go for it.
Yes.
Do you think that thus far that sense has been drummed into the minds of the delegates?
I think so. I think they all will get together to work after the Congress today. It's not like a part or a faction of the leadership of the party wants them to remain united, and then another part wants them to keep these internal wranglings. All of them, they are together in all of this. That, after today's event, after the Congress, the party is going back together, working in various positions, working in various, aspects of the party's architecture to get power for the party in 2024. And then maybe we'll get to the speech of
We'll get to the speeches.
Yes.
CPP, Nana Ajanto said a lot of things, talk about mindset change and all of that. But let's take a look at the profiles of the chairpersons, or if you like, the aspirants for chairperson position. Niyama Ashite is our very first one. He's a legal practitioner. That's knowledge. He's a former member of parliament for the Clote constituency. That's where Zaneto Ajima Rawlings is being. She's a former Labour and Employment Minister, former MC for the Tema Municipal Assembly as well, a former branch chair of the Clote branch of the NDC. And this is the man who wants to be the next chairman. Of course, this will be his, I think, second time trying. The incumbent chairman also, National Democratic Congress chairman of Usuampofo, Sami Foto, popularly as it's called, is a former member of parliament for Fantiakwa North, is a former DC for Fantiakwa North District, is a former Eastern Regional Minister, is a former national organizer of the NDC, and under his watch as national organizer of the NDC, they won decisively, which brought John Mahama to power. Is a former minister for local government and rural development as well. And this is a man who many have tipped to be the winner. But this is the silent contestant, Samuel Yao Eduseg, a former minister of the Ashanti region, sorry about that, the deputy minister, a former deputy minister for Works and Housing, and he's also a very, very popular figure within the NDC. Amazing, Crosby, how people are not paying attention to. We'll come to that conversation. But let's look at the man who everybody, thinks that has locked horns with Ofosu-Ampofo. Currently, he's the General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress. 17 years he's been in that position. A trained teacher, a former banker, a former Deputy Minister of Food and Agriculture in charge of crops. He has also served as a member of parliament for the Wenchi West. Is presently a member of the Parliamentary Service Board, and he has, direct access to the Speaker of Parliament and all of that. People think that he's been very instrumental in the conversation at IPAC. And Nana Ajanto, I would mention that, look, we miss the NDC at IPAC. We want you back meetings. At IPAC. Don't run away from us. You look at the profiles of these gentlemen, and one thing runs through. Experience counts. Yes. And they all have experience. Popularity counts. They all have it. I am shocked that Niyama Ashite and Eduseg are not on the front row. They are all behind, really in the shadow of the two.
Well, Johnny, you wouldn't blame them too much. Although this is an election for the NDC, the entire nation is interested in this. And these are two names that Ghana is familiar with. Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo and then Johnson Asiedu Nketia. The other two may be very popular in the NDC, but may not be as popular as we expect them to be in the country as a whole. So the noise, the euphoria that Asiedu Nketia and Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, their names are generating, may not be entirely from the NDC. They could be from
let's hear from a political historian who is also with the Political Science Department of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Professor Samuel Edujemfi is joining us via Zoom. Prof, thank you very much indeed for your time. I watched your encounter with MP for South Dai, Roxin Nelson Dafia Makbo, back and forth, some reservations he had about some comments you had made. But again, you have seen the first part of the whole Congress as it's been rolled out this morning. They're taking a 45-minute break. They'll be back to vote. Your thoughts about the speeches and the conversations, the adoption of affiliates and all of that. What do you think?
I think it's been a great deal today. They've really conducted the whole process thus far, so good. I think they are looking at working around what is the theme of their Congress, especially the day, looking at least unifying to be able to forcefully and tactically win election in 2024. I think what is critical, within this, is to make sure that when they've given all these wonderful speeches and they have shown good gestures in front of the camera, they would be able to translate that post-elections or post-Congress to cement, their front and to make sure that they are able to serve as the viable alternative that well-meaning Ghanaians are anticipating or have contemplated over the past period. Yes.
You had said earlier in the morning that people should choose the party over their parochial interests. And then you had also said that you're looking forward to how the NDC was going to strategize and patch up those acrimonious relationships, or if you like, the bickering ahead of the 2024 elections. The chairman of the Council of Elders, Alhaji Mahama Idrisu, said exactly the same things you have said earlier, which, you know, Councillor Dafia Makpa seemed to have disagreed in some respect with you. How do you feel at this point?
No, I am, you know, I mean, that's what we do as intellectuals. You should be open to alternative or, I mean, if you like, counter opinion and ideas. But for me, where I sit, I am going to say, I mean, among other things, that they should be ready to listen and to be able to debate, because that is what the political party is supposed to do. They should be willing to engage in the politics of issues. Interestingly, I mean, I would not be campaigning for party A or B, but I'll be sitting as an individual academic who would speak fairly to the situation and without fear or favor. I think my reflection on what the conversation we had in the morning, simply put, the gentleman did not pay attention, he did not listen to me. And I think the challenge also that the NDC suffers is that sometimes it has been prejudicial and it has not sought to really look at what will really benefit them and push themselves forward to do that which will inure to their benefit. I think that the call for the Council of Elders to sit up, to really look around, and when they have found potential danger, to call people to order, to make sure that they get them to bury the hatchet and to smoke the peace pipe, I mean, within the scheme of things, should be that which they seek to do. They should not act after the fact. As simple as that. Because you see, when you act after the fact, what you'll be doing is firefighting. And when you use firefighting approach as a party that is in opposition, you cannot estimate to say that Ghana will be worse off by 2024 and therefore to be a done deal. At least one of the reasons why certain individuals are so keen in winning party positions is also winner takes it all syndrome. And that, I believe, is happening in the NDC now, because they have the aspiration and hope that by the 8th year, they might win elections. And when you are well positioned, then you'll be able to at least have the opportunity to direct affairs, to also have some say-so within the government. And when that subliminally would have a role to play in the scheme of things, that can also become a weakening factor for the party, because the winner takes it all syndrome really rear its ugly head. But having said that, the critical point I'm making is this. You need a united front as a party.
Right.
You need it most importantly when you are in opposition. And what has played out, at least so far, it's not the best. We are seeing a different picture today. That ought to have been the case the days before today. Why did that happen? And I said in the morning that indeed it is not for two tales. What is for grounding this is the personal interest I talk about, the parochial interest I talk about, the fact that that I did not say in the morning, but there is a winner takes all syndrome. And these things do not help a party that wants power. That party which is interested in power must seek, first of all, to use alternative dispute resolution.
All right.
At least the internal mechanisms that are set up within the party. And these things were not exhausted. The gentleman's response was quite intriguing and quite interesting to me. For example, let me just say something. Right. I mean, for example, interestingly, you are saying that at least it has taken a week. Yes, it has taken a week for someone to go to court. What happened the day afterwards or immediately after the unprintable words were passed or made on the platforms when some people won the elections? What happened when there was, I mean, a kind of disagreement here and there? It's taking a week. If we are too slow to act now, then we are too slow to govern in the future. That is the point I make.
Well, the speeches sought to suggest that the party should eschew controversies. But there are two schools of thought. One that says we don't need the controversies now. We need to focus, regroup, strategize, plan, and then win 2024. Others believe that in the scheme of things, while we regroup, plan, and zoom into 2024, we need a bit of the controversies to stay popular and so people know that we are alive and active. What do you say?
Okay, so I raised a point, and I just want to emphasize that in the morning that a certain sector, a wonderful, man, very smart, intelligent, who has served as a finance minister, has consistently been discussing the issues about the economy. And I said that the NDC seem not to plan its making, but what is create fragmentation within the party. Indeed, what is necessary within the NDC today is to focus on rallying around the unity flag, rallying around Akatamanso, which is their party. Emblematically, what they seek to do is to make sure that their warmth, their commitment, their social democratic agenda indeed covers the nation. And that becomes possible when you have an umbrella that is not perforated. And said perforation is not caused by internal schisms. Exactly, the concentration must be not only to patch up, but sometimes to regroup, to build a better umbrella, which has more coverage and has more spine to be able to withstand the political pressure that will even come upon them when the MPP in government decide to also take them on boot for boot in 2024.
Interesting, though, the New Patriotic Party and, of course, CPP, PPP, PNC, they're all there to give their fraternal messages. Of great interest was that of the NPP, as Deputy National Communications Director, who said that, well, the NDC must apologize to the Supreme Court, Ghanaians, and, if you will, everybody else for playing on their emotions, particularly in the matter of the election petition, because General Sedun Ketia or General Mosquito had said to a group of supporters who he was addressing ahead of this crucial election that they had no empirical evidence or the full facts or full detail, which is why he could not present any pink sheet before the courts. Do you agree?
I disagree. I vehemently disagree. It is the election we had was one of the closely contested elections. And indeed, we must understand that so insofar as the people of Ghana are really growing and systematically beginning to appreciate the politics of issues, the NPP cannot continue to tackle itself. They should come again. Indeed, if the woman in charge of the electoral commission was put to test, right, the litmus test at the court of competent jurisdiction, I believe that she would have suffered many things, and many things would have also emerged. Let me be frank and say that it is important that as we are leading up to 2024, all institutions and agencies that have fair role to play, insofar as our elections are concerned, must do so and do it duly without causing any harm to the state. And I need to say this now before it is too late. It is also very critical for us to understand that the NDC chose to go to court because that is exactly the option they had. It wouldn't have been right for them to have taken the option of protest, the option of doing anything that would create social dissonance. And it is important that the NPP does not encourage, right, the NDC to do that, which will not be better for the cause of our progression and our, democratic credentials, which we have talked thus far. Embryonic as it is important for the NPP to know that on the principle of fair play and also making sure that we don't overly militarize our elections and also do not create extremely a policing state in 2024, we are anticipating that we will have an election that is keenly, closely contested on issues. And on the back of that, we expect that if anyone is not happy with the outcome, we will still resort to due process, the court, among other important tenets we have resorted to in the past and also we seek to do in the future. I would be happy to tell the MPP today that we are at where we are because the NDC chose to do what is right.
So we're asking for unity. We're asking for maturity. We're asking that controversies be set aside. But then again, does that mean that if I go into an election like Broja Jemfi and I feel mistreated, I cannot head to the courts or seek redress for whatever I feel has been done untoward towards me, or because we are told that, oh, let's sleeping dogs like, let's be peaceful, I must then leave it. What do you advise?
So in the first instance, when the internal, mechanisms, are explored, what it means is that he would have had his day before the executives and a committee that would have looked at some of these issues, right? But before they would have been able to go through this process, it would have been too late, I think, in my contemplation. So that is why I argue in the first instance that they ought to have tell this, individuals who are not happy to stay put, to say that, yes, we are willing to listen to your case. We are willing for you to go through the due process within the party. And that even if at the end of the day we find out that you were right in the first instance, we would even make a public statement around that of within the same internal party arrangement, find a way to assuage, right? So fundamentally, I think that there ought to have been an initial process to make sure that this is curtailed. The other thing which is quite significant is that when these things are playing out and somebody goes to court, I believe, becomes the last resort within the internal party arrangement, because the party has its own constitutional arrangement or internal democratic tenets and laws that they have resorted to, even including conventions, that I believe that they resort to from time to time to work around some of these things. And I think that these things were not exhausted. That is why some people feel that if you step out too early like that in the day, what you are seeking to do is to create more tensions, or better still, to allow the opponent to be able to have opportunity to take a direct shot at you. I must say that some of the exchanges between the contestants have not been pleasant at all. And I think that the MPP will not take a blind look at that. They will clean, filter through, and take the strong pointers out of that and make something great or build some castles out of that. And that is the reason why you don't allow that to happen. Because when we come to the politics of issues and we want to discuss fiscal indiscipline, discuss corruption and all that, even whilst in opposition, when you are arguing and throwing stones at your opponent within your own political party, that, for example, he's housed in he's been able to build a house or have a position or a property or an estate, which that individual does not have the financial clout or does not have any set business to acquire that. For me, it raises an interesting question, because if amongst yourself there are such individuals therein who do not have the financial clout, the social capital, the economic capacity to be able to own certain properties and they are owning them, and you are bringing these matters up, in the future, when you decide to take the MPP on, the question is that if you live in a glass house, you can't throw stones.
So then, what would it be for Broja Jemfi, because he's gone to court, and he's not the only one. There's one in Sogakope as well, a couple of them, but key among them is Broja Jemfi. Everybody now is saying, let peace reign, let's stay away from controversies, let maturity step in. So what? Does he go and withdraw the matter from court, or what?
I think it is not a wayward thing for Mr. Broja Jemfi to have gone to court. At least it is better than to use unprintable words. It is better than to take a negative swipe at your opponent or a party person, someone who is a comrade or a party member. So fundamentally, I think he is also seeking some due process beyond the party, because I think that maybe he felt that he could not get the kind of redress that he seeks for from his own political party. And so he decided to go to court. It's also a dicey situation. Before the hearing and all that, how are things going to play out. So it is not based on immaturity at all. I think that he is very definite on his convictions, and he feels that if certain things were done and done right, he would have won the day. And I think that it is important for us to take the question of disenfranchisement very seriously, because at a national level, it came up around some of the issues even the NDC itself raised in the elections, right? That is forgone. But I think that it is critical that we appreciate the question about the internal democratic arrangement. Why are some people disenfranchised within a party? What benefits, do they accrue to certain individuals or actors or contestants? Any exercise, any actions or inactions that sought to give a particular group or individual advantage over the other is disingenuous to the internal democratic process of the party itself. And that should not be overlooked. And it must be looked at squarely and dealt with accordingly. And so, even if this court process is disingenuous to the cause of the NDC, they must be interested to do a self-introspection to look at this very particular matter. Because if Mr. Broja Jemfi, in as much as possible, is convinced and highly convicted, of his own conscience, that he should not let this matter rest, we should allow him to explore the due process. But while this is going on, the NDC as a party must find ways of patching up, and that is equally significant.
Doc, so again, if you listen to the tone of the CPP, the PNC, aside the NPP, they're all clamoring for power in 2024. In fact, the PNC said the NDC should elect leaders who will be competent and capable enough to wrestle power from the NPP in 2024. Sadly, they seem to have taken themselves out of the picture. From what you see, and the people who have put themselves up for election for the various positions, right from chairman to the very bottom, do you think that the NDC is ready for battle in 2024?
I think that the NDC has, fine gentlemen and women, from the class of intellectuals to, hard-working party persons who have really paid their dues and have, deeper sense of knowledge about the workings of their party and also the terrain of Ghana's politics. I would take the opportunity to just take a bite on the chairmanship race, which has thrown a lot of things in the air or in the atmosphere, sometimes polluted it, and also tried to lavender it to make sure that it doesn't become pungent, but it is anyway. But if you look at the contests, at least, you see Mr. Asiedun Ketia, who feels that he should have the opportunity to have a final icing on his political career within the NDC and within the political sphere of Ghana. Today, he's wearing his usual colors. It mimics his war regalia, which is worn from time to time when there is a national election ongoing, right? Clearly, he has demonstrated that he has enough clout, he has the charisma, and he has a deeper workings and knowledge of the NDC and also of the Ghanaian politics. Somebody like Asiedun Ketia, if he wins the day, I will not be surprised. However, you will have an incumbent who has served as the chairman, and I believe that no matter losing election, in the recent past, might have endeared himself to the party people, might have been able to work as seriously on the ground, and has played some significant role to maybe put his people together without necessarily making or generating the kind of euphoria or noise, but could also pull up a surprise. What even makes it more challenging is that he's incumbent. But for the fact that he's an incumbent, the discussion would have squarely and fully centered on Mr. Asiedun Ketia because of his own charisma and how, if you like, generally he goes about doing things. The other individuals, you have read their records. They have impeccable CV. I dare say They have played significant role within the party and also served Mother Ghana. They are not ordinary persons. They are not lightweight. But unfortunately, the pulchritudinal extent of General Mosquito notwithstanding, he has a lot of arsenals and arrows in his quiver that these other gentlemen, these other two, apart from Mr. Ofosu-Ampofo, will not be able to stand before him foot for foot, boot for boot, punch for punch. Unfortunately, that is the reason why I believe that the conversation, the discourses around the chairmanship has not really focused on these other two gentlemen. I think that the personality of Mr. Asiedu Nketia has caused that, and it's also the chairman. I mean, the incumbent's position has also given him some leverage for us to have a kind of discussion between oscillating between the two gentlemen as against the others, because the others seem to come to maybe possibly introduce themselves. They have come for an introduction ceremony, I guess.
Right. If Asiedu Nketia wins, and then what? If Ofosu-Ampofo wins, what? I'm looking at the strengths and doing a SWOT analysis of both gentlemen who have been at the helm of affairs as chairman and as general secretary. Asiedu Nketia has been there for 17 years. Ofosu-Ampofo has been at various positions, organizer, won decisively in 2012. Now he's back, you know, chairmanship, and he wants to be retained. Who does the party need at this point, should I ask?
It's a very difficult question. I will try to answer. I think that let me look at Mr. Ofosu-Ampofo. I think fundamentally, we have looked at the terrain of our party politics. You just touched on the CPP, right? And the veranda boys ideology, the masses ideology, the sense of comradeship and all the other things, right? This seemed to resonate within the NDC in contemporary times, if I'm permitted to say so. And so within that social democratic realm or tendencies, if you like, then you would want to say that you would want to see somebody who doesn't come across as elitist, even if he has that strong intellectual acumen like Mr. Asiedu Nketia, and that brilliance that is sometimes unparalleled and unmatched in many respects, right? But so you would want someone who is really the face of the party and seem to come across to encompass or embrace the traditions of the party and reflect same even in contemporary times. It seemed to me that that is what General Mosquito has exuded, and also translated many times in his actions, and even, if you like, his inactions. So in our times, is that what the politics in Ghana require? Is that what the politics in Ghana really must look for from the NDC? Within the NDC, I think a section of them, I mean, if you look at the debate, I mean, they feel that we need such a person because he comes with such charisma that will match the MPP boot for boot, especially in the 8th year. Power has alternated. Let me be quick to say that President Mahama lost election on the 8th year of the NDC being in power, respectfully so. And so in the 8th year, when we have seen power oscillating or alternating between the NDC, the MPP, and the NDC, you would then want to have a general in his truest form leading the charge to give it his last punch to be able to deliver home the good for the NDC.
I see.
But some have said, no, let us rather, have someone who might exude a semblance of a soft diplomatic approach, but still is able to unleash the punch with diplomacy. And so how would they be able to deliver in their own respect? Would the NPP, for example, sometimes overly masses veranda boys tactics that would emerge from the quarters of Mr. Sedun Ketia. I will tell you, for some sectors of the NDC, some of them feel that insofar as the MPP will not like that from General Mosquito, he is the best bet for them to put forward. However, I think that the one who has really done well on the ground will win. But what Ghana needs is someone who will allow us to have our quiet, our peace after a strongly contested election within the scheme of things.
Interesting. But so the conversation about having a revolutionary past, Nana Ajantwa, for example, of the CPP said, revolutionary past must not be violent, but it must be a mindset change. At this point, and again, I'm asking you because you have just given me a profile of the two gentlemen and what their chances are. But going into the 2024 election, given the fallouts from the 2020 election, does the NDC need a calm disposition, or do they need the aggressive disposition of General Sedun Ketia or that of Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo?
I think they need someone who is very strong and firm. And being strong and firm, I mean, does not mean that you have to use unprintable words. It doesn't mean that you have to throw stones onto the field of play. You must respect fairness, fair play, and due process and all that. And so we need not reduce strength to cacophony, if there is any word to summarize the whole discussion.
I see. Prof, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. We'll get back to you in good time. I know that the Electoral Commission is setting up vigorously, and so from where you said you'll be watching, and we'll be watching, and then we'll come back and have the big conversation. Right. Of course, some delegates, when I went to the stadium earlier, they told me that there could be shocks. And so we wait for it. But thank you. Professor Samuel Edu-Gyamfi is a political scientist. He's also a political historian with the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Take a look at these. And when we return, we will try and take you straight to the Accra Sports Stadium, where the action is happening. Roland Walker is there. Komla Kluche is there. William Evansinkum is there. Judith Awachitando is there. And the rest of the team will bring you all you need to know about the 10th Delegates Congress of the National Democratic Congress. Stay with us on your Election Command Center. And this is your Election Command Center. My name is Johnny Hughes, and let's take a look now at the vice chairmanship aspirants. We showed you what the chairmanship aspirants look like, but let's look at the vice presidential aspirants quickly, and we'll get into the general secretaryship as well. So that's what you have there. Sheriff Abdul Nasiru is there. Abanga Yakubu Alhassan is there. Dr. Sherry Aite, former Minister for Health and very instrumental woman, is there. Setu Furio, her name Awudu Sofo Azoka. Yeah, Chairman Azoka, you know him as well. Well, Honorable Alhaji Amadou Sorogo, Madina, former Madina MP, Honorable Alhaji Habibu Adamani, and Evelyn Inyona Mensah. So these are the individuals who have put themselves up for the vice presidential, vice chairmanship, I beg your pardon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's also the general secretaryship race. Well, that's not a list, Coco. The general secretaryship is not this list. It's Elvis Ifriyan Crab, it's Peter Boamo Tokuno, it's Fifi Kwete, and also those are the three that are vying for the so that deputy general secretaryship race. Not much has been said about these individuals, but Dr. Francis Lami Guribe is aspiring to be deputy general secretary. Dr. Catherine Denyu, Barbara Sewa Asamoah, Kwame Zu is there. Foyo Mustafa is there, Brady Paul Opata, and Evans Abu. They are all seeking to be, deputy general secretaries. What's taking the center stage is the chairmanship and also the general secretaryship. Who is it going to be? Is it going to be Elvis Ifriyan, Fifi Kwete, or is it going to be Dr. Peter Boama Otokuno? These are the four. But of course, your chairmanship race, Samuel Yao Edusei, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, Samuel Fuson Pofo, and Niyamash. There's going C for C or C for G. Well, I don't know what's it going to be, but that's what the Electoral Commission is preparing the ground for. They will go and take their votes, and we've been told that they will vote. So these are your vice chairman aspirants for this trip as well. Chairman Zoka is vice chairman already. He's seeking re-election. So these are them. Let's see for general secretary. Okay, organizer race. Now this is most critical because you require an organizer to be able to deal with everything, putting together strategies and boots on the ground, working in tandem with the youth organizer. We are not too sure if the injunction will hold or if Broja Jemfi would withdraw, but these individuals, Joshua Akamba, they call him Captain Akamba, he's the incumbent, he's seeking re-election, and you can see all the individuals. I see Chief Bani in there as well, Joseph Yamin, former deputy in the Ashanti region, all of them are hoping to rise to the very top to become organizer of the largest opposition, the NDC. Who's it going to be? That's the conversation we're having here. And who's your choice? Let's get to know on our social media handles. Let's get to know. General Secretaryship, Elvis Ifriyan Crab, Fifi Kwete, and Dr. Peter Boama Otokuno. Now, these three have generated a lot of conversation over the past few weeks while they were crisscrossing the country campaigning. I've had an opportunity to interview all of them, apart from Peter Boama Otokuno. But Elvis Ifriyan has been here. Fifi Kwete has been here as well. They come to the table with a wealth of experience. And you do know that the general secretaryship is, if you like, the administrator or the handler, the chief handler of the party. Elvis Ifriyan has previously been a deputy general secretary before, same as Peter Boama Otokuno, who many say General Asiedu Nketia or General Mosquito gave him a lot of latitude and space to operate. It gave him an opportunity to make his own mistakes and learn from them and learn the ropes. Fifi Kwete comes to the table as a former deputy finance minister. He has been at the helm of leadership in Legon, has gone round as member of parliament for Ketu South, the World Bank of the NDC. So all three gentlemen, Elvis presently is the director of elections of the NDC. Many have questioned how he was director of elections, yet the party won and lost at the same time. People have asked many different questions, but what's not in doubt is their credentials. Their credentials as to whether they have the capacity and the capability to lead the NDC into the 2024 election. Because between now and that lame duck period of 2024, there has to be a lot of work that will be done. Regrouping, trying to patch holes, trying to re-strategize, get people to join, trying to mobilize, trying to get everybody to be on the same page, trying to sell a strong message. Because consistently, you've also heard from political party watchers who suggest that in 2016, or ahead of the 2016 election, a lot of mud was thrown at the NDC. They didn't have the time, or if you will, they ignored most of those things that were said about them, about corruption, about ineptitude, about being incompetent and all of that. Well, it doesn't appear that this trip they want to sit aloof and watch those conversations happen. They want to take on those commentary and deal with them as much as they find. It would take a general secretary. Now, if you are aspiring to be a general secretary and you're going to step into the huge shoes of General Mosquito, who has been at that position for 17 consistent years, you would have to either bring your own pair of shoes or you would have to adjust to the size of the shoes that he has. Because again, a general secretary would have to represent that IPAC meet is not exactly the NDC now has shunned IPAC, and Nana Ajanto of the CPP has called them to come back to the IPAC table. But then the key thing is that if you will be general secretary, you must have the gravitas, you must have the power to commandeer, you must have the focus and the direction and the vision and leadership to be able to propel the party into victory, which is what the focus of the NDC is for 2024. The MPP is poised to break the 8. So now it's two giants, a duopoly as usual, as we know it, or we have known it since 1992. But the NDC is poised, the MPP is poised. If you look at the two gentlemen who will be at the top eventually, okay, Chairman Stephen and team on one side, and that I'm sure that the delegates have been looking at that list. Chairman Stephen and team on one side of the NPP, with Justin Kodia Frimpong on that side as well. You're looking at, you know, the whole stretch of executives on the NPP side. And then you mirror it to the strength of executives on the NDC side, who will be determined today. You want to be careful if you're a delegate to know who you are picking to go and match who is on the other side. Because at the end of the day, and in 2024, it's not going to be an internal contest or a battle. It's going to be a battle of two political parties sharing their ideas, selling their ideologies to the electorate, and making sure that they are winning the election at the end of the game. Because elections are a numbers game. It is not about who has the best message. It's not about who has the most flamboyant, you know, artwork and who has the, you know, most beautiful ladies. But it's going to be talk about the numbers game. So as the delegates go now, and I've heard most political watchers talk about it, they say, look, the delegates need to make a decisive decision, and a decision that will not come back to hurt them, a decision that they will not regret after 2024. They need to pick the right pair of hands to be able to handle election 2024. Take a look at this story. We'll return to have some more conversation here on the Election Command Center.
Down in history as one of the most heavily contested internal party elections of the NDC ever. An incumbent General Secretary, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, along with two others seeking to unseat an incumbent party chairman, Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo. Of course, 10 positions are being vied for by different aspirants. And who is to determine the fate of these aspirants? It is the delegates themselves. We'll be speaking to some of them to see the mood ahead of the elections and what they expect to happen in this particular election.
We are expecting a very peaceful Congress, and we are hoping that by the end of the day, the hard workers will be rewarded. Definitely, I'm going for C4C, Chairman Ofosu-Ampofo. He has done great things for the NDC since 2018. In fact, you look at the achievements he did, how he transformed the party. He has made the party very attractive to Ghanaians.
We are NDC and NDC, we know our roots. And from the look of things, as you are here, what you can see, everybody is in calling for Asiedu. Yeah, we have to go for him because he's a man who has stood behind the party for time immemorial. His effort, his dedication, and his selflessness has been one of the reasons that I've always called for General Asiedu Nketia. You can remember when we went to time, Asiedu Nketia was there for NDC. At the Chimail, he was there for NDC. Recently, when we were at the parliamentary election at Senate, when we were having issues with the stolen ballot box, Asedu Ketia rushed to Techima as well as Wenchi, and then made sure that he stood as a pooling agent for the party to make sure that the candidate for NDC won the election.
I expect that we'll have a smooth Congress, and then we expect that at the end of the day, Chairman Ofosu Ampofu will be the chairman of the party, be able to bring everybody on board to win the 2024 election. I have to support a chairman who is very strategic. He's a unifier. He's somebody who is not vindictive, and he will not personalize issues. He campaigned based on issues that confront the party, looking at the economic situation of this country.
While some are unwilling to declare their stance, others say they're yet to decide who to vote for.
We are all delegates. Whosoever wins, we'll all rally behind that person. But we hope that after that, we pray that everything should be peaceful today. Peaceful. No fights, no insults. At the end of the day, it's NDC we are all projecting, not our individual interests. So whosoever wins, we'll rally behind the person so that 2024 we'll take this thing from the MPPs. Ballot in the bachelor, they will bet me win. And the empire because we can say, yeah. Some
will come, they will tell you, oh, vote for me. If you vote for me, the party will be strengthened and all that. But we have listened to some of these things, not today alone. So we are indecisive as at now, especially the chairmanship, the secretary, and the organizer position, because they all stand tall if it comes to such positions.
Well, crowds bring numbers and numbers bring business. But here at the University of Ghana, where these delegates are being calmed, most vendors here say they're unable to cash in as big as they would have in previous years because of the economic situation.
Everything is now expensive and the prices have increased. At first, caps were 25 cedis, but now it's 35 or 40 cedis.
35 and 40
Things are expensive, and so we have increased our prices, and people keep complaining.
It's not that affordable because people want to buy, but looking at the economic situation where we find ourselves because of our own mismanagement, it's very difficult. Things are not moving smoothly as we were expecting it to be because people cannot afford to buy the paraphernalia.
Judith Awochitando, TV3 News.
It's my colleague Judith Awochitando there earlier at the University of Ghana campus, where most of the delegates who have traveled from far have been housed there. Sabah Hall, I'm told they've been there, but presently they've all moved to the Accra Sports Stadium, where we're getting ready to witness the voting. And you do know that it's been peaceful so far, and hopefully it should remain so. Pockets of violence, as Nana Ajanto said, are not good at all. But let's take a look at let's hear the chairman aspirant, one of the aspirants for chairmanship, Niyama Ashite. He spoke earlier to Media Journal.
The chances are good, and that it looks like I'm going to carry the day. When people are talking about Asedu and Ampofu, they are in the media for wrong reasons. They are fighting. I am not fighting, so the fact that they are all over social media doesn't mean that they are winning. And I'm saying that they are in the social media for wrong reasons because they are in the fight.
So what exactly have you done that you are too sure that you are winning?
I have gone around to talk to delegates. Yes, social media is good, but the best propaganda is to sit face to face, and I mean that's the best propaganda, that you meet people face to face and talk to them and let them know what you stand for. And that people are bought in my agenda, and all the opinion polls that have been made so far point in my direction.
So by close of day, we will have Niyama Ashite as the chairman.
The national chairman.
Congress has long started. Are you now coming?
Yes, I was with the delegates. I was with the kingmakers. I was conducting some kind of conversation with them, and they have assured me that if we want a total transformation for the NDC come the 2024 elections, Henry Osiakoto is going to be the unifier in the Ashanti region.
So why did you decide to come with a horse?
It's a form of transportation. A lot of people are coming here with, cars, and I decided to come with a horse. It's one form of transportation.
So you are hopeful that you will carry the day at the end of it?
Of course, inshallah. I know the delegate will speak, and the best person I know to lead the NDC organizational front is Henry Osiakoto.
Henry Osiakoto there on a horse with his regalia. It's a war regalia, that of a warrior. He wants to be organizer. He wants to take or kick out Captain Akamba. We'll see how things pan out. And also Nyama Shite, who says the best propaganda is to meet the individuals, not to be on social media. Social media is good regardless, but he was cruising in his vehicle. And that's how they trooped in. And we'll be sharing, you know, the sights and sounds from the Accra Sports Stadium with you. But take a look also at this one while we get ready to vote.
It's almost 2 p.m. and Congress has long started. But here at the main entrance of the Accra Sports Stadium, quite a number of activities are ongoing. Where are you coming from?
Oh, we are coming from Shukura, you know.
But are you delegates?
Oh, yeah. I'm a delegate.
Where is your tag?
Oh, it's with my brother. It's my brother, yeah. That's my brother.
But you're not supposed to be here and doing what you are doing.
Oh, why?
We are here because of our chairman.
Yeah.
Number one, number 5.
People who are still trying to make their way into the Accra Sports Stadium. Some of them are observers, others are just not having tags, but they are here, and for whatever reasons they are here.
I'm here because of the NDC National Delegates Conference.
Are you a party member?
Yeah, I'm a party member.
Are you a delegate? What are you?
Yeah, I'm a delegate, but my constituency people came before me. Yeah. So they took my card and I'm calling them to bring the card so that I can also enter.
Which constituency?
I'm from Bimbela.
It's a family thing. It's an NDC thing. I'm here in support of Honorable Fifi Kwete. But for lack of accreditation, we are still lurking around here.
But maybe you are causing some inconveniences here, or?
Inconvenience? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. We are standing here quietly observing how things are going.
But you were missing the whole show because the show is inside there. Now you are here, you won't see anything that is happening. Won't it be best for you to go and watch TV and see what is happening? Or?
I'm monitoring everything on my phone here. Once in a while I go to the social media to monitor what is going on. Yeah, so there's no inconvenience at all.
What are you doing here?
I just come because of my brothers.
Who and who are your brothers?
Them two, them be delegates. So I just follow them, come to see how far.
But you're missing the whole action though, because you're supposed to be inside there and watch the whole thing. Aren't you missing out?
I wait them, they said they'll give me cards, so I wait them to bring me cards.
There is also a bit of challenge here regarding vehicular movement. We are told that vehicles are not supposed to be here or be allowed into this premises. But we do have drivers driving in here, and that is causing a bit of challenge in terms of vehicular movement. Evelyn Tinkma, TV3 News, Accra.
And that's my colleague Evelyn Tinkma. They're working hard like a bull, trying to get us all the stories. And she's quizzing, what are you doing here? Apparently, you could actually watch on TV3 Ghana or on our social media platforms, or listen to us on 3FM 92.7 as it's been broadcast live now. So you have some convenience to yourself. But, you know, political fanatics, they would rather choose to be in the heat and also to see that their candidates or their preferred candidates get to win and all of that. But right after ex-President John Mahama entered, General Asedu Nketia, or General Mosquito as it's called, Johnson Asedu Nketia, who is one of the contenders for the chairmanship race, also entered in his usual style. Take a look. on it, and he walked in with a lot of energy, even though he had said earlier that he is advanced in age and he does no longer have that kind of energy to run for secretaryship, which is why he wants to be the chairman, to be at the top, to strategize. He struck in rather confidently and vigorously, and he showed a lot of energy as he walked in there with his warlike Batakari. So that's it. Johnson Asiedu Nketia, President General Secretary, who not so long ago delivered his report or a speech to the 10th Delegates Congress, now is looking forward to becoming the chairman of the National Democratic Congress, the largest opposition party in the country, and we look forward to a peaceful election as they themselves have promised, because speaker after speaker in the first session of the program have reiterated the fact that there has to be peace. And of course, you do know that there are some individuals who have tended to make an industry, create a violence industry out of the political situation, whether it be NDC or MPP, and you have all the vigilantes, even though they have been disbanded. Well, voting will commence very, very soon. And let's go back to the solidarity messages. Where do we begin, Koko? We'll begin with the CPP, PNC, NPP. Okay, let's go to the ruling New Patriotic Party's Deputy Director of Communications had spoken, Abdul. He had spoken, and key among the things that he spoke about was that the economy will bounce back, the dollar will come back. Abuchi doesn't have the dollar anymore, or it doesn't have CD to swap with the dollar. They want to set up a result coalition center. It took a jab at the NDC because it appears that in the last election, based on the things that Asiedu Nketia had said, it suggests that they couldn't collect their results well. He also spoke about the fact that they would break the 8 and all of that. Take a look at it.
On existing protocols as established by this Congress from the beginning, and bring you greetings from His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana, the Vice President, and the entire leadership of the New Patriotic Party, led by Chairman Stephen Ayensu Ntim. I am here with Williams Yamua, the Director of Finance and Administration of the party. I'm also here with the Deputy National Youth Organizers of our party, Sandra Sakodie and Jay Hyde. Also here is Safia Muhammad, the Deputy National Women's Organizer of the New Patriotic Party, and also the Deputy National Organizer of the New Patriotic Party, Chris Lloyd. We want to begin by commending the National Democratic Congress for successfully organizing your internal elections from the base of the party, the wards, the branches, constituency to the regional. We commend you for this success that has been achieved. We also want to commend you for your youth and women conference that was organized at Cape Coast. We wish to remind you, some few issues came out from the Youth Congress, which we need to, as a party, solidarize with you and remind you that the country would need a peaceful coexistence, and we condemn the violence that ensued at the Cape Coast Conference. We do know that the leader and former president of the NDC, the former president of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, did reminded us that the party has a revolutionary route, and when it comes to violence, nobody can compete you. And we admit, but we remind you that we have the Vigilantism Act that we want you to go through. Mr. Chairman, we want to make an appeal to you. We have actually put together a document. We have heard that you have a school, a party school that you have established for the NDC. We have put together a document to establish a faculty of resource collation where we will take the NDC through how to collate results and go to the Supreme Court without fear or favor. Mr. Chairman, we want to also stand on behalf of the people of Ghana to apologize to the Supreme Court and the people of Ghana for the NDC playing on the emotions of the people of Ghana, despite the fact that you went to the Supreme Court without a shred of evidence to prove your case as the winners of the election. Mr. Chairman, 2024 elections, I know you are here to elect leaders. You want to elect leaders that will steer the affairs to win 2024 elections. Mr. Chairman, Your Excellency, 2024 is a foregone conclusion. We would win the election with a wider margin that will confront the NDC not to make an attempt to even appear or even petition the Supreme Court. We wish you an event-free Congress. We wish you everything that you will do here. We need a healthy NDC. We don't want to defeat a limping horse. At this juncture, we wish you well. May God bless our motherland, Ghana, and the NDC. Our budget has no CDs to change for dollar. Dollar is hiding. And we assure the people of Ghana the economy will bounce back. Thank you, and may God bless you all. Thank you.
And that's the NPP solidarity message. They have called for an apology from the NDC because they believe that the NDC toyed with the emotions of the people. Professor Samuel Jeffrey says he disagrees with that position. Well, they've also taken a jab at the NDC, suggesting that they will have an election collation center, activate a faculty at the School of Democracy that the NDC has set up so that they can teach them how to collate election results and all of that. But it's all for the beauty of democracy. At such events, you would have comments made. I remember that when the NDC was in power, and at some point, Ivor Green Street of the CPP had to address a meeting of such. He had said that the Bronya is too dry and that they should elect leaders that will sustain them in the opposition and all of that. You know, he was bold enough to have said that, you know, at that particular time, right in the lines that, as somebody will put it, for want of a better expression, to have said those things. But let's know your preference and your thoughts and comments so far on the coverage and also who is aspiring to be what. Where would you put your money, for example, on the chairmanship race? Will it be on Chairman of Swampofo? Will it be on Eduse? Will it be on Asiedun Ketia? Will it be on Niyama Ashite? We'd like to know on our social media handles. Also for General Secretaryship, will it be Peter Boamo Tokuno, Dr. Peter Boamo Tokuno, sorry, Fifi Fiavi Kwete, and also Elvis Ifriankra? I mean, these names will keep coming up and keep coming by until the elections are eventually done. Hopefully, the amendments that were proposed to have been to be dealt with at the Congress, we're told will be only one of those that will be dealt with. Well, William Evans Income is standing by with a conversation. Let's go back to the Crossport Stadium.
Until victory becomes ours one touch in 2024.
Well, some believe that there's some level of a fracture because of the apparent friction between the National Youth Organizer and then the current, communication director of your party. Now, his swearing in will have to put on hold. Will this not affect the NDC? Especially, you need the youth to be able to push through your agenda for 2024.
What I'm aware is that H.E. John Dramani Mahama demonstrated leadership in calling my two learned friends, Jojo Pare Ado and Sami Jemfi, respectfully to the office. They have smoked the peace pipe. What I'm aware that there's an understanding between the two of them to work together for the common good of the party. I am not aware, and I do not want to speak to any court matter as yet. The legal committee of the party is yet to have a meeting on this, and I'll defer whatever it is to them for the time being.
Well, you have one of your experienced hands in terms of driving the grassroots, driving that level of political sentiment, or, bringing them to life, moving from one state to the other. I'm talking about General Mosquito, 17 years of experience as a chief scribe of your party. Now the top.
And that was my colleague, William Evazikum, trying to get a conversation with a member of the legal and communications team of the NDC, Godwin Eduji Tamaklo. There, he had his own set of thoughts, and you could see the active participation of the young in the activities that are happening. Suffice to say that in the next few years, maybe in the next 8 years, the next 10 years, these are the individuals who will be at the helm of affairs of the National Democratic Congress. So it begs without saying, or it goes without saying, that they will have to be there to lend the ropes and to understand what's been going on there. I've seen a lot of the youngsters there, and it's beautiful also to see the sweet arrangement of the older folks, Harry Zako, Alaji Mumune Baomia, you see Alaji Mahama Idrisu, Hudu Yahya, you see all of them right up there. So it does appear that the Electoral Commission is almost ready and set to go to the polls. And we have been made to understand that 9,000 or a little over in excess of that will be voting. The Accra Sports Stadium has capacity to take more than 40,000 individuals, but the space has been used and spread enough for 9,000 people, and various polling points have been created so that there's no crowding. The process will be fast and swift enough. Heavy security is present there. The Ghana Police Service, some military officers as well. It's heavy security. Then there's a lot of order and discipline. We hope that it will continue till the end of the results are declared, and then we will all go home and try and have a peaceful evening as well. But this is the 10th Delegates Congress of the National Democratic Congress, and they're going to decide who leads. But let's go back to the Accra Sports Stadium.
Within the inner perimeter, we will invite the Ghana Police to lead you to your rightful place. So when voting commences, OT and Western region, you will have to walk down. Voter region, you will also have to come down, and you will vote the same way. Our MPs and former appointees, you will vote in your region. You will join the region that has been mentioned and assigned, the zone that has been mentioned and assigned to your region. Thank you very much. I will invite the chairman of the party's elections committee, Comrade Alex Segbefia, to perform an important function, after which We will also invite the Director of Legal to make some announcements to all of us. After that, candidates, we expect you to be moving towards the days for introduction. Move away from the stands and come towards the days for introduction. If we mention you and you are not here, we will not introduce you later. Come here to be introduced. Thank you very much. I have Comrade Amaliba, our Director of Legal, will do the announcements first. After that, the Elections Committee Chair will have some announcements. Thank you.
Thank you, Kofi. Comrades, the Electoral Commission has been served with some injunction applications. Some of those applications have been served the party as well. Based on that, some constituencies have been restrained from participating in the elections. So just listen attentively. When you hear your constituency, it means that you cannot take part in the elections. The first one is Dorma Central. Dorma Central has been restrained from taking part in these elections. The second one is Menchia South. Menchia South has also been restrained. Injunction applications against the delegates who are to partake in this exercise. However, there is an individual who has also been restrained, and that is the Eastern Regional Women Organizer. She goes by the name Sherry Nana Ampim. She cannot also vote. So these are the constituencies and the individual involved.
Please listen to this very important announcement. This will be the second time I make this announcement, and it will be the last. The next time will be action that will be taken in the voting booth. As much as possible, even avoid taking calls whilst you are in queue to go and vote. Don't use your phone in the booth. If we find you using your phone in the booth, we will seize that phone. You may not have access to the phone. Don't use your phone. In other words, no voter is to take any picture of his or her vote. If you find you doing that, we are going to seize your phone, and you may not have your phone for a very long time. So take note. No using of mobile phone in the voting arena. The candidate agents, after the introduction of the candidates, the candidate agents will move and take position before we invite delegates to come down and start the voting process. So candidate agents, be ready to take your position. You already know, you've gone through training, and you know where you are to position yourself so you can observe the process appropriately. And you take position before the first one function, then I will continue thereafter. Thank you.
is a member of the organizing committee. We've just heard some announcements. An injunction has been placed on 3 constituencies, and they will not be partaking in this voting exercise. These are Doma Central, Manshia South, and Agona East. And the Eastern Regional Women's Organizer has also been restrained from voting today because of an injunction. She's Sherry Nana Ampim. Mobile phones are not allowed in the polling booths, and agents must also be standing by to assist this process as EC takes over. But I'm here with Beatrice Annan. She's a lawyer, an outspoken woman, respected, and a member of NDC's national communications team. Beatrice, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
So how has the process been so far?
The process to me has been very smooth. This is about one of the smoothest congresses I've personally attended. You have very strict enforcement of the rules and regulations. If you don't have the VIP tag, there is a place you have to go through. If you don't have the observer tag, if you don't have a tag at all. So for me, I think that the NDC has made me proud, seeing the comradeship that everybody has shown. I'm excited, and I look forward to a much more exciting election. For us in the NDC, this election is an election for the soul of our party. We have a current government that is so bent on breaking the aids, irrespective of how reckless they've been. And so Ghanaians know that the only alternative is the NDC. And I believe that every citizen watching me today have as much interest in this election as we, the members of the NDC, have. But I'm particularly impressed. If you listen to the speech of the former president and our presumptive flag bearer, you will know that the enthusiasm, the encouragement, and the strength of everybody to contribute their quota to rescue power and to rescue this nation from the mismanagement that we are facing. So I'm particularly happy about what I'm seeing.
So that is Beatrice's introductory remark. As we speak, I just want you to have an idea about what is happening. The EC is set, the polling stations are ready, you can see the ballot boxes ready. EC officials will be ensuring that voters go through the process, the indelible ink and everything that they have to do as normal elections are seated. Kofi Adams is by the microphone, just taking the candidates, the agents, and delegates through the processes they would have to follow. As we speak, he's mentioning the names of all the candidates so that at least we will confirm that all these candidates are accepted to partake in this election. Now, Beatrice, I want us to focus on the presentations that were made. You just gave an overview of the former president's presentation. There was something that cut through, that the mistakes NPP is making today, the level of impunity that appears to have dominated how they want to govern this country, is something that his government is assuring Ghanaians won't happen. Because many people assume that NDC is coming to power just for vengeance. And then he speaks to what he intends to do should he become our next president. Infrastructure, uniting the country, thinking about how best to ensure that the public purse is protected. Is it a reassuring message that syncs with the theme for this Congress?
Yes, of course, it's a reassuring message, because the public resources are the resources of the citizen, and no political party, whether MPP or NDC, merely because you have the power to govern the people, should you be led or misled to believe that you have the right to use the resources in the manner that you like. And so you've seen the former president's commitment to fighting corruption in the past. You've seen how he's had to punish elements in his own party where he believes that state resources were not used rightly. And in managing a post-COVID economy, we have to even use the resources in a more effective way. And so President Mahama is saying that I've done some before. I don't think that if you take Kwame Nkrumah away, any president in the Fourth Republic has achieved the kind of infrastructural development that we experience. And so he's saying that given the resources that we have, we want to...
All right, so that's the sights and sounds. Those are sights and sounds from the Accra Sports Stadium where we're getting ready to vote. You see, they're ready. And the directive is that you do not take your mobile phone close to the booth. In fact, you are advised, if you're a delegate, that even if you're in the line or in queue ready to go and vote, you may have to avoid picking your calls and all of that. That's just to ensure that you know, the element of treating, or if you like, monetization is reduced to the barest minimum. People often will take, you know, monies from aspirants or their assigns and say, we will go and vote for you and we will show you evidence that we indeed voted for you. That the NDC in this election and by this indication wishes to stop that. We're also live on 3FM 92.7. Know that an injunction has been served on 3 constituencies, Doma Central, Agona East, and also one other we'll share with you shortly. And also the Eastern Regional Women's Organizer has personally been injuncted. So what it means is that all the delegates from the 3 constituencies and the individual Nanampim of the Eastern region will not be able to vote in the elections. I'm sure it will be a bit of a pain, but we will get to know the details of the injunctions as we have Roland Walker, Komla Kluche, Judith Awatri Tando, Evelyn Tengma, and the rest of the team out there trying to bring you all the details. We'll share with you what the detail of the injunction and why some persons do not want them to vote. What could have necessitated that? You know that in the just not so long ago ended Youth and Women's Congress as well, some of those issues came up. In the NPP's own conference as well, some issues of that nature came up where people complained that they couldn't find their names either in the register or they were disenfranchised and all of that. We seek to find, maybe from a political science perspective, how these things pertain and what it actually means for a democracy that's growing. We want to understand exactly what it means and why these things still happen. Is it a question of negligence on the part of people at the lower level who fail to do their work, or is this just some persons who are disgruntled and they think that those individuals are not qualified enough to vote, and so they must go through the courts to ensure that they don't get to vote? But this is our extensive coverage of the NDC's 10th National Delegates Congress happening at the Accra Sports Stadium. Over 9,000 people will get to vote today to decide and determine who gets to lead the NDC, the largest opposition party, into the 2024 election. Some have called him the president in waiting. Some have said he's the de facto presidential aspirant. Others have said that, well, there could be others who, you know, contest him. John Dramani Mahama is his name, and he spoke earlier at the Delegates Congress. Take a listen.
Any future, you want that.
Thank you. Ezu, Eza, Ezu, hey, hey, hey. Thank you very much, all of you. Chairman of the Council of Elders of our great party, members of the Council of Elders, National Executive Committee members, our running mate for the 2020 election, leader of the NDC group in Parliament, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, and your members of Parliament, our National Chairman, our General Secretary, fellow colleagues from sister parties, members of the NDC diaspora who have paid airfares to be here with us. I appreciate you, and delegates. I wish to warmly welcome all of you to this 10th Congress of the National Democratic Congress. Let me begin by expressing my appreciation to our sister parties for the fraternal messages that they brought. I think the messages were well thought through, and I consider them to be the keynote addresses of this Congress. Thank you very much, members of our sister parties. I start this speech with one quotation from the Bible, and that's Romans 8:31, and it says, "If God be for us, who can be against us?" And then another quote from a very famous hymn, "Begone Unbelief," and that is the end of the first stanza, which says, "With Christ in the vessel, I smile at the storm." Delegates, ladies and gentlemen, all too soon, 4 years have elapsed since we last gathered to elect leaders to various national executive positions of the party. With that mandate having expired and as required by our Constitution, we have gathered here once again at the Accra Sports Stadium to elect another crop of leaders into office to manage the affairs of this party for the next 4 years. Today's election represents the final piece that will complete the party's management and administrative structure, and it comes after an elaborate and comprehensive restructuring and reorganization exercise spanning the last 2 years. In that period, we have democratically elected over 300,000 branch executives, over 7,000 constituency executives, and 300 regional executives. Exactly a week ago today, the National Youth and Women's elections were held successfully in Cape Coast, and I wish to use this opportunity to congratulate all who took part in that exercise. To those who won the elections, I say well done. And to those who could not realize their objectives of occupying national executive positions, I congratulate you nonetheless, for it takes real courage to step up to the plate and offer yourself for leadership in any organization. You live to fight another day. I note that in the period preceding those elections and its immediate aftermath, a series of regrettable exchanges ensued which threatened to detract from the larger objective of consolidating our front and preparing for the greater task of wresting the leadership of this country from this bungling and inept NPP government. I have, in conjunction with various elders of the party, moved to resolve the differences that gave rise to these exchanges, and I'm gratified to see that calm and normalcy has gradually returned to the youth front of our party. I'll reiterate the counsel I gave to those involved in these exchanges that victory or defeat in internal contests should not provide the basis for feuds, as they serve no purpose than advancing the interests of our opponents. The NDC possesses adequate organizational capacity and acumen to resolve internal disputes. Hence, it should be possible to iron out our differences of any sort emanating from any form of contest without waging a war of attrition against each other.
I've observed, though to a much lower extent, similar sharp rhetoric and exchanges in some of the contestations leading up to today's election. And I want to urge an appeal for restraint and demonstration of maturity, which we have exhibited many times over, even as we go through today's important exercise. I expect that the period during and after these elections would be peaceful and cordial, and that we can immediately set about the task of preparing the party to our next power from the MPP to offer sound and proper governance for this country. This party brims with the democratic spirit, and we have withstood many intense and highly competitive elections, and we have emerged unscathed. Perhaps the most memorable of these elections, internal elections, was the 2011 presidential primaries, which was famously dubbed the Fonka Games. While speaking at that primary in Sunjani, at the time I was the Vice President of the Republic, I had chosen to tell our teaming party supporters a legendary folk tale of the three birds, Tika, Taka, and Gangale, who through cooperation and unity gained prominence and fame in their community through their harmonious rendition of melodious tunes. With their three different voices rising in unison, they wowed their audiences with their superlative performances. No sooner had they achieved fame than arrogance, pride, and envy caused them to go their separate ways. Now their combined voices, which once rose in those melodious tunes, gave way to solitary, jangling, and discordant sounds, which drew them scorn and opprobrium from the same crowd that had doted on them previously. They soon fell from their lofty perch as the most admired group in their community. The gravamen of that tale, I told over a decade ago, is that in unity lies strength. And this still rings eternal, and it appropriately captures the danger of allowing ourselves to be torn apart by avoidable conflict and disunity. Individual aspirations and interests must be subsumed under the larger interest of the NDC and our dear country Ghana, which is in dire need of rescue from the hopelessness and the dark abyss that we have been thrown into by this government. What is taking place today is not just an election to determine who occupies what position in the top echelons of the NDC. What we're doing here today would amount to a declaration of intent by us to lead the broad masses of Ghanaians in one big push to dislodge this government, which has been abject and dismal in the governance of this country, at the next polls in 2024. This is an absolute national imperative, and we cannot fail at it. At this point, allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to appreciate the hundreds of thousands of friends, supporters, and members who responded to my call to support our fundraising for this 10th National Delegates Congress. Even though our call for support came rather late, I'm happy to announce to you that through small mobile money payments of 10 Ghana cedis each, donations and deposits into our National Congress account, we received a total of 1,083,000 cedis in 12 days. This is a demonstration of the love Ghanaians generally and members of the NDC have for our party and the worthy cause we are embarked on. I also wish to express my appreciation through this medium to other donors who wish to remain anonymous, but who helped us to make up the shortfall in our budget for this Congress. We also received material donations, including bags, thousands of bags of water, rice, event logistics, and other non-monetary gifts to support the Congress. To all such donors, I stand on behalf of the party and say to you, Ayiko, thank you. I want to use this opportunity to demonstrate to all that there's a fundamental responsibility on our part, especially as executives and party supporters, to help finance the party. We cannot leave party financing on the shoulders of just a few people. To buttress this point, I wish to pay tribute and salute our chairman of Trifu Ati Mokwa constituency in the Central Region, Mr. Hakim Adai, who I noticed while going through the list of people who donated to this Congress. Mr. Hakim Adai, chairman of Atimokwa Central Region, made a cash donation of 10,000 Ghana cedis through his local GCB branch to our Congress account. Mr. Hakim Adai, I salute you. Thank you very much. And I wish to personally meet you, to shake hands with you after this opening ceremony. So look out for me. Ladies and gentlemen, the good people of Ghana have suffered 6 years of appalling misrule, corruption, waste, arrogance, nepotism, and abuse of office, human rights violations, and economic mismanagement never before seen in our history. Pain and anguish have swept through the land and left in their wake a people buffeted on all fronts who need all the inspiration and hope we can muster. 6 years of reckless and irresponsible mismanagement of the economy has rendered our people broken and struggling to survive from one day to the next. The Akufo-Addo and Bawumia government have supervised the worst economic conditions in several decades and brought upon us hardship that an entire generation of our population has never witnessed before in all our existence.
And that was John Dramani Mahama. He is a former president, also former MP for the Bole Bamboy constituency, former Deputy Minister for Communications, and well, he's hoping to lead the NDC again, at least in 2024. He says he has no preferred candidate except to say that he wants maturity and also unity to lead. But let's go to the Sangarerugu constituency, because the man of Proverbs has been speaking to my colleague Kamla Kluche, the Honorable ABA Fuseni. What did he say?
2025, His Excellency President Mahama was sworn in as president.
How? What is your justification for that?
Justification? There are many. Look, number one, today everybody in Ghana is wearing a contorted face. It's almost impossible to smile in Ghana today. Ghanaians are suffering unprecedented excruciating hardship through the incompetence, wickedness, and incisiveness of the Nana Akufo-Addo government. So that's the first leg. The second leg is that after 6 years, the NPP has a record. Match it against the record of the NDC, both President Mills and President Mahama, and Nana Akufo-Addo for the 2 times. The record is straight. And this is the hopelessly uninspiring performance by the Nana Akufo-Addo government, and the verdict is out there. Ghanaians it is being expressed in their hard life they are living today.
How do you come to power when the cracks in the NPP in the NDC, is beginning to show up?
There are no cracks. There are no cracks in the NDC.
You haven't had
there are differences of opinion. No. There are no cracks in the NDC. There are differences of opinion in the NDC.
Will the center hold?
Which is natural to any democracy.
Will the center hold?
In a democracy, you can get everybody thinking alike. You know that. You know that more than me. That in no democracy is everybody thinking alike. So there are differences of opinion in the NDC.
Well, ABA Fuseni disagrees that there are cracks within the NDC which are beginning to show. It says there are differences in opinion. Well, Kamla Kluche kept pressing, well, the anchor hold. Obviously, he didn't answer that question, but a lot more opinions will be shared from the perspective of the largest opposition party, the National Democratic Congress, as we bring you the full coverage, extensive coverage of what it is that will be the decider for who gets to lead the NDC into the 2024 election. John Mahama says, well, he's not interested in who is going to lead. He doesn't have any preferred candidate. And it should not be about who is going to occupy which position. It's about bringing back the hope to the people and rescuing the people of Ghana from the New Patriotic Party. Well, the government believes that they are doing their very best, but the NDC is deciding today, and as usual, we have our team there. We'll be bringing you the results as we did in the past, and we'll share with you all the fine details that you need to know here on your Election Command Center, where we'll bring you everything else. Join us on our social media handles at TV3 Ghana on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and let's get the conversations going on. I'm sure you have your own preferred candidates, whether it's for chairmanship or deputy vice chairman or general secretary or deputy general secretary, organizer or treasurer or national communications officer. Well, Sami Jemfi is going or running unopposed, and you can understand why he's running unopposed, because the clarion call among the political party which he serves is that he has done a yeoman's job and that he doesn't need to be contested. However, he has deputies who are, gunning for it. Malik Basintale, I see him there, Likem Kotoko, all of them are in there somewhere trying to grab a position or so and to represent the political party of their choice come 2024. 2024 will be a very, very interesting election year, particularly because we're going to deal with the legacies of John Dramani Mahama on one side, that of John Evans Atta Mills on one side for the NDC, and then the legacies for John Ajekum Kufuor, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. We're going to look at it. But the Electoral Commission, the Director of Electoral Services, Dr. Kweku, is addressing the delegates. Let's take a listen.
You have been assigned to be. We want you to help us so that we can finish on time. So please, let's abide by the guidelines that we have set for ourselves. Honorable Kofi Adam has already indicated to you where the various delegates will cast their vote. Please, candidate agents, I believe you heard the allocation of the various centers. Our presiding officers are already there waiting for you. Please, agents, go with your introductory letters so that they can receive you to the polling stations. If you are not an agent, please leave the inner perimeter. This is the way we want to go about the process. We will be calling the constituency by constituency, and each constituency should be led by the chairperson, so that you guide your people to go through the process for us to finish on time. We will finish the voting till the last person has voted. We will not do the counting. When the last person has voted, they will do the counting simultaneously. Once the voting counting is finished, then we will collect the 17 results for each of the positions, and thereafter declare the results. This is simple, first past the post. The one with the highest number of votes is elected. So please help us to also help each other so that we'll finish on time. We will be begging of you. We want to tell you again that when we finish the voting and the center or the perimeter is crowded, we will not start the counting. We want to ensure that it is only those who are allowed to be in, especially the agents, who are available before we will start the counting. On my right side is one of my deputies, Mr. Emmanuel Santikisi, who will help me
On my left side is Mr. Samuel, also my deputy. We also came with 13 coordinators. The 13 coordinators will be those who will be helping you to usher you to where you'll be voting. Please cooperate with them. Then, as you are aware, we have 17 polling stations, meaning that we have 17 presiding officers, and each polling station has somebody in charge of the register, somebody in charge of the indelible ink, and 9 people who will be issuing out the various ballot papers. Everything has been said. The candidate has been introduced to you. So I will now hand over to my deputies to take over from there. Mr. Kisi and Mr. Kwa, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Director of Electoral Services, Dr. Sribwo Kweku. This is the voting procedure. We have 9 positions being contested. The first table will be the table which will be in charge of the register. So the moment you enter the polling station, somebody will look at your card, the voter's ID card, party card, and then somebody will apply the indelible ink before you go to the voting center to pick the ballot paper for the chairman. You go to the voting booth, you make your choice, you come to the next table where you pick the ballot paper for the vice chairman, and then it will follow suit. The voting is going on simultaneously. All the 17 centers will start at the same time. When a center have finished. So presiding officers, take note of that. When your center finish, all the centers have to finish before we continue the next process. You see, to also say 1 or 2 things.
Hello, thank you, Mr. Kwa. To the announcement of the agents, all the national registers, but yesterday you were given the final register. Please, we are using the final register. So any register that you received previously will not be valid for this exercise. We expect you to use the final registers. And as has been indicated, no one is supposed to take a picture of his or her ballot paper in the voting booth. That will be an offense. So please take note of that. Don't take a picture of your ballot paper in the voting screen. We will ask our coordinators to move into the various centers that has been allocated to them, so that they can start directing the delegates into the various polling stations. All coordinators from head office, please move into the various polling stations that has been allocated to you, so that we can start directing the agents to the various centers. Presiding officers, kindly give us the signal when you are ready, so that we can open the centers for voting to commence. Thank you. Yes, presiding officers, you can open the ballot boxes that contain the ballot papers. Kindly go to pre-voting procedures with the agents before we commence voting. All presiding officers, please go through the pre-voting procedures. Check the number of ballot papers you receive at your center, fill the necessary forms for them, and open the polling centers. Thank you.
And so that's the Electoral Commission there, represented fully at the Accra Sports Stadium, where the National Democratic Congress is holding its 10th Delegates Congress. And we're live on 3FM 92.7. They're issuing instructions to them. So they are all set to get on going. Well, so fresh information also is that if you have any or you had any previous registers, that will not apply. The new one, the latest one that was giving out at the last minute is what will be used at this particular point in time to determine who gets to cast their vote for their preferred candidates and to make a choice as to who gets to lead the National Democratic Congress. It's going to be a long night. Hopefully, the amendments that were proposed to have been carried by Congress, I'm told that had been shelved, just except for one that had to be carried through, which is the, what do you call it, the one that we saw, the affiliate group, the professionals group that were, connected to the National Democratic Congress, and they received their certificate of affiliation. Aside that, everything else is moving. So essentially, we're going to be voting now. Voting has started in earnest, I should say, and the delegates are trooping in. My colleagues are telling me that they're trooping in, one and the same for all the 17 polling stations to be able to cast their votes. Agona East, Doma Central, and one other, which I'll share with you in a bit. They have been injuncted and they cannot take part in the vote. Menchia South, Agona East, and also Doma Central, they cannot take part in the ongoing election. Also, the Eastern Regional Women's Organizer, Sherry Nana Ampem, is unable to vote in this election because they have all been injuncted. So take note, Agona East, Doma Central, and Menchia South, as well as Sherry Nanampim, you are unable to participate in the election as it's ongoing. Now, I do also know, earlier we heard about some Southtown, but I think that was not mentioned in the conversation because the Electoral Commission and the Director of Legal Services, Legal Affairs at the NDC, lawyer Abraham Amalba, had mentioned those who had been injuncted. So for want of, for the avoidance of doubt, Doma Central, Agona East, and also Menchia South, and then Sherry Nana Ampim, who is the women's organizer for the Eastern region. They have been injuncted and so cannot participate in the ongoing election. We expect some 9,000 or more individuals to cast their votes today as they determine who becomes chairman, vice chairman, secretary, general secretary, deputy general secretary, organizer, and treasurer, and national communications officer, and all of that. Those are the portfolios that are available for filling. And the individuals who have brought themselves up, if you look at their profiles and you look at their capacity to deliver and you look at what they bring to the table, everybody believes that they are qualified and competent enough to be able to lead. But it is the delegates who will decide. And as the late Sir John would say, fear delegates, because they can give you all the funds and they can give you all the accolades and they make you bask in the adulations of their praise. But you may be shocked that the delegates will decide to vote for somebody else. We will get to know how long the snake is after the elections have been done. But we will cross over to the Accra Sports Stadium shortly to also show you what's been happening there as the electorates begin voting on this particular day. Today is the 17th, and it's a long-awaited day. Conversations have gone on. The clarion call is for a truce to be called for parties who are feuding legally. Broja Jemfi is in court, is injuncted the swearing or induction of Giorgio Pariado, who is the national youth organizer, who sought re-election and won, according to the election that was held in Cape Coast. Well, Broja Jemfi says he doesn't agree with the results, so he headed to court to injunct the process, which means that once there is an injunction, Mr. Giorgio Pariado, popularly known as Pablo, will not be able to be inducted or, if you like, sworn in today. But is that really consequential? Many have said that that may not be consequential because after 10 days or so, the injunction could be set aside, the matter could be dealt with, and then they could come back. But the speaker after speaker, particularly the Council of Elders Chairman, Alhaji Mahama Idrisu, had made a call for peace to reign. John Mahama, who is also a former president, has also made a similar call for peace to reign. And I asked Professor Samuel Dujemfi earlier whether asking for peace to reign connotes allowing for things to go away by not asking questions and demanding for answers of what you believe has not been properly done. Well, I leave that for the good judgment of the court. But let's take a second look at the former president's speech, John Dramani Mahama, at the Congress earlier in the first part of the program. Take a listen.
The life savings of Ghanaians, their business capital, their pensions, and the very survival of our commercial banks and insurance companies are threatened by the first debt restructuring ever undertaken by our country. And this is because of the reckless borrowing of the finance minister and the economic management team led by His Excellency the Vice President. 0% in 2023, a measly 5% and 10% interest will be paid in 2024 and 2025, respectively, with minimal installments of principals due for payment to be made over a 5 to 15-year period. Meanwhile, several individuals and pensioners cannot guarantee that they will be alive by 2037 to see the final 41% maturity of their principal. Our dear country Ghana, that has been a poster boy of democracy, good governance, and economic progress, stands on the brink of bankruptcy and economic ruin. Yet, we have a president who enjoys spouting the rhetoric of self-respect and restraint from begging Western nations for support. And yet he has spent the last several weeks on the telephone with Western leaders, asking them to beg the IMF to grant Ghana the recently announced staff-level agreement for an extended credit facility. Our dear nation has never been so put to shame and come close to being a beggar nation as we are today. And yet, this is the same person who only yesterday said, Ghana enye ohiamai, yet isikaso ekom die. This NPP government has done the worst to erode the belief of Ghanaians in our democracy. Many Ghanaians see their situation as hopeless and are willing to take the hazards of dying in the Mediterranean Sea or electrocution on a high-tension transmission line in Kaswa. But countrymen and women, let us not despair. They say the darkest hour is before the dawn. And they also say, in every adversity, we find opportunity. And Bob Marley also says, when one door is closed, another is open. Ghana shall rise to a new dawn. Part of the process of turning the fortunes of our dear nation around are what is taking place today at this Congress. Ghanaians are looking up to us not to become the next government by default as a result of the failure of this administration. Ghanaians are looking up to us to be the choice because we're a better alternative. We must not win by default of the lapses of this administration, but we must win because we are the better alternative to govern this country. And I've heard many people say that when we win power, we must do exactly as the MPP are doing. But I dare say, there's no use fighting for political power if we're going to commit the same mistakes and abuses the MPP has inflicted on Ghanaians. The NDC must be the government of infrastructure. The NDC must be the government that protects human rights. The NDC must be the government of economic prosperity and growth. The NDC must be the government of modesty and humility. The NDC must be the government that fights corruption and dissipation of public funds. The NDC must be the government of prudence and accountability. Our work is therefore cut out for us in the days, weeks, and months immediately following this National Congress. And therefore, we can ill afford to spend any time on unhelpful internal bickering. Let us get off our marks immediately and convince Ghanaians that in addition to our superior record in governing to that of the MPP, that we are ready to be the alternative government come 2025. The first step towards doing that is by proving that we can manage our own internal affairs and hold ourselves to an acceptable standard of behavior. And that is why I wish to reiterate my call on all of us here to be mindful of our actions and play our roles at this Congress peacefully so that we may leave here a more united and stronger force capable of leading the efforts to save Ghana from certain collapse under this MPP administration. I wish also at this juncture to repeat my position of neutrality in the various contests. Let me say again that I do not have any preferred candidate for any position. And I urge all delegates to vote based on your own appreciation of the messages of aspirants and their conviction about their capacity to work in the larger interest of the party. I stand ready to work with all those you elect to lead our great party and to
A total, Accra Mall, TV3, Oil Dome. Grab your tickets. Platinum, 200 Ghana cedis. Diamond, 100 Ghana cedis. Gold, 50 Ghana cedis. Praise Achievement Awards, honoring greatness, celebrating true excellence. Powered by Praise TV, your #1 Christian TV station.
Protecting the people we love starts with good hygiene, and Flora tissues play an important role in minimizing the spread of infections and keeping us healthy. From kitchens through to public places such as funerals, restaurants,